everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video here in Ice Moto. Today I'm going to teach you how to wheelie on a moped. This tutorial is how to wheelie on a tuned bike, but also how to wheelie on a stock bike. And to all the people who says that you can't wheelie with a stock bike, well, this right here is a clip of me scraping my license plate on a stock bike. So if you have a stock bike, you can still wheelie, you don't have to tune it. But firstly, let's talk about the setup of my bike. The setup of this bike is a Enox exhaust system with a 1465 gearing. I also have an Unrestricted Cdi. I do also have a racer on the bike, which helps with wheelies a lot because the balance point with a racer is a lot bigger than without one. So yeah, that's basically the whole setup of this bike. But without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to talk about is your brake control. The brake control is the most important part of the wheelie because it helps you from looping out with your bike whenever you're on the back wheel. So whenever you're scared and feel like you're looping your bike, you can just press down the back brake and you will come down from the wheelie. The reason why people crash a lot in the beginning is because they don't really practice the brake control enough. So I highly recommend that you practice your brake control very much until you begin with your real wheelies. But how do you practice your brake control then? Well, let me show you. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a very good exercise to get in your brake control. And I cannot stress this enough. Practice your brake control very much before you do your real wheelies. Okay, so firstly, you want to sit completely still at the bike. Pull in the clutch with one finger, because if you have your whole hand on the clutch and you rev the engine and let go of the clutch, then you will just drop your handlebar and fall back. And if you can't hold the clutch with one finger, you can use two, but I really recommend one finger. Okay, then you want to put in first gear, just like that. Cover your foot with your brake, and then you want to rev the engine, pull up the handlebars and drop the clutch, and then once you're up in the air you want to press down the back brake so you come down from the wheelie. Let me show you. So there, once I'm up in the air I press down my back brake and I will come down from the wheelie. Oh! So yeah, but now let's move on to the real wheelies. Okay, now let's talk about the technique of getting your front wheel up in the air. If you have a stock bike like I did when I first started learning wheelies, you're gonna have to grind on this for a very long time. It took me around 3 months just to be able to get the front wheel up in the air because my bike was stock and I really had to practice this technique a lot. But if you have a tuned bike like I do right now, you don't really have to learn this technique that much. But if you can't get the front wheel up in there, you will have to learn this technique. If you have like 70cc or up, most of the times you can probably just sit down on the saddle and just rev the engine and you will be up in the air. But if you have a stock bike, you're gonna have to grind this. But how do you do it then? Well, let me show you. Okay, now, so the first part of the technique is finding the power band. You always want to do the body motion right before the power band. And the power band may vary depending on what type of exhaust you have and what type of bike you have. Let's take an example. If you have a stock Derbi Senda or an unrestricted Derbi Senda, your exhaust will go out a little bit on the side. That means that it's a lågeffektskurva, I don't know what to say in English. That means that you will have to do the wheelie on lower RPMs. So let's take an example. I have an Enox exhaust right now on my bike. You want to do the body motion right before the... Okay, now let me show you where you want to do the body motion. Begin with riding in like second gear. Ride at a low speed and have full throttle. You hear right now that the bike are on the low RPMs and it does not have power. So wait until you hit the effektkurva and the bike really wants to ride. So right there. So you want to do the body motion right before the effektkurva. Let me show you. Okay, so you couldn't really hear, but I did the wheelie right there before the effektkurva. And a problem that a lot of people have when they practice their wheelies is that they don't have the right timing of the wheelie. If you do the wheelie right before the effektkurva, your wheelie will sound like this. the bike doesn't rev. You hear? That's what's happening if you do it before the effect curve. But if you do it during or after the effect curve, it will sound like this. The engine will just rev out and you lose too much power before you're up at balance point. So you have to find right before your effect curve before you do the body motion. Okay, now let me show you how to do the body motion. Begin by rolling forward in first or second gear. I'm in second gear right now. How you do this is basically you're compressing your forks and then jumping back on your seat and releasing the clutch at the same time. Firstly, I'm gonna show you right here with the GoPro view, and then I'm gonna show you for side profile, the timing and everything. But firstly, let's begin right here. I will compress my forks, jump back on my seat and release the clutch, just like this. Yes, let me show you from another perspective.
Okay, now, compress your forks and rev the engine. Release the clutch and jump back on your seat. Once you're closing up to the balance point, slide forward into seating position.
Okay, so now I have showed you the basics of the wheelie. If you practice the brake control, the body motion and finding the power band, you will be able to get up to balance point, without a doubt. But there are still a lot of tips that I want to share with you. Firstly, previous experience. If you learn how to wheelie on a bicycle before you learn how to wheelie on a moped, you will find it a lot easier to wheelie on the moped than you would if you hadn't learned on the bicycle. So if you have the time, I really recommend you learning on the bicycle before you hop on the moped or the motorcycle. Okay, so there's one thing I need to let you know. You can't really do a proper wheelie until you know how to do a coaster. If you don't know what coaster is, I can show you one right here. So a coaster is basically when you're just pulling the clutch and you're behind the balance point and you're just gliding through the air. So that right there was a coaster. Once you learn how to master the coaster, you can officially say that you can do a wheelie. Another thing that you're gonna have to expect when you start to learn wheelies is that it takes a very long time to be able to do the wheelie. Like I said before, it took me around 3 months just to be able to get up on the back wheel. I did have a stock bike at a time, so it's understandable, but it still takes a lot of time. And that's one of the problems. People give up after just one wheelie session because they think that it's not possible to do a wheelie on their bike. Well, let me tell you something, it is possible. You're just gonna have to put in the time and dedication. I was literally out every single day for 3 months to be able to get my stock bike up on the back wheel. And that took a lot of dedication. Another reason why people are having trouble with wheelies is because they're scared. When you start to practice wheelies, you're gonna have to expect to crash at least once. Because when you go in with the mindset that you're prepared to crash your bike, it will be a lot easier. Because some people, once they're close to balance point, they just let go of the throttle. Sometimes they're not even close to their balance point, but they still let go of the throttle because they're scared. I have only crashed once, a real big crash. Unfortunately, I did not get it on the camera. But of course, I have had a lot of close calls. I can throw in some tips right here. So yeah, you're gonna have to expect that you will crash. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you still have any questions about how to wheelie or anything, just comment them down in the comment section and I will try to answer them. But until then, I will see you in the next one. Bye.